Hi, welcome to the VW Bus restoration series. In this video, we're going to be finishing up the front suspension. We're going to be adding the upper and lower bump stops. We're going to be talking about the different types of shocks, and we're going to be installing these hydraulic shocks onto the front end. And then finally, we're going to finish prepping the undercarriage, and we're going to get everything prepped and painted from the front axle beam all the way back to the cargo floors. So stay tuned. Now we're going to go ahead and work on the bump stops. I did the other side. This is the new one I bought. This is the old one, still in good shape. So the bottom and the upper, and then these are the two clips that we'll use to put them on. We'll go ahead and start with the bottom one. That's the easy one, the one that rarely doesn't make much contact. So we'll go ahead and put it up in the hole here. And then take the locking clip. I assume it's where it's bumped up from where it bumps up, so where the clip goes in like that. I don't know if you can see that, like that. And just grab onto it. There it is. Good. Now for the top one, since the arm is resting on it, we'll have to jack it up a little bit. So what I do is I get my jack just on that bottom bolt, just so it's lifting that bottom bolt, and on the bottom of the whatever that's called, spindle, and I'm going to jack that up to take pressure off of the top bump stop there. Let's see if that works. As you can see, it's taking the it's creating some space between our bump stops so we can get it off. So I'll keep jacking that up and giving it a little more so I can get that out. It's crusty. There we go. Ooh. There's the rest of that old clip. Almost. Come on, just that last little bit of lift. There we go. That last little leverage is all I needed. All right, now just put my clip in reverse. And back down. There it is. Bump stops are in. Have you ever not known something for so long that once you found out or once you realized it, it was embarrassing? I was about to return these shocks as defective. Apparently I've only ever bought gas charged shocks, and I've never known about or owned a pair of just standard hydraulics, old school hydraulic shocks. But for those of you that might be in the same boat as me, which probably aren't, probably like, this is ridiculous, that's where I was at. I was about to return these. These are the, I guess, kind of stock-ish replacement shocks. They're from Saks. And with hydraulic shocks, they just have resistance in and out. So it resists both ways. So the way you know if they're bad is just simply by pulling them in and out and feeling if there's how much tension there is. Like right now, these are brand new, so they have quite a bit of tension. You know, probably like 50 pounds per throw. But if they're just like, you know, then the hydraulics are blown. Well, I've only ever had gas-charged shocks. So these are just standard hydraulic shocks. Gas-charged shocks, which are much more common, what they sell everywhere, will always retract by themselves. So that's why they're banded new, so that they can stay tight in the packaging. And once you take the band off, they just automatically expand out. And I think in general, like a gas charged shock would have 70 or so pounds of force, always upward. But they, you know, so they still act like these, but they just have that 70 pounds of force always directed upwards, which is why some people say on a bus that has a lightweight front end, because, you know, all the engine and most everything is in the back, the front end tends to be lighter weight than most cars. Gas charged shocks could be too stiff because that extra 70 pounds per side, like say extra 140 pounds, will keep the, you know, shock from pushing in and can make for a stiffer ride. So I think that's why a lot of people use just regular old school hydraulic shocks, because they have more give on the downward. And that being said, since my bus will be electric, it'll be interesting. I mean, I'm still going to have all the weight in the back. Obviously, the engine, the batteries are going to be I'm going to try to do under the floorboards in the middle. So I may have a little more weight in the front just by way of the batteries being centered. And so I may want to change these out for a gas charged shock. I don't know. But anyway, I just learned that. I thought these were defective because they didn't spring back automatically. But no, normal hydraulic shocks aren't supposed to do that. I'm 45 years old and I just learned that. Go figure. I was wondering why this wouldn't fit, right? And it's because the old shocks had, the old aftermarket shocks had these spacers. And those aren't needed. These Saks shocks have kind of the wider ends to them, so they don't require these spacers. So I just need to take that off. So I just put a bolt and washer on the bottom and a bolt and nut on the back. And I'll just tighten that in. Shocks are done. Got the bus outside, hooked up the e-brake, and was able to get it out here. So next thing I'm going to just sand. For those who might not have been following this project, in part one I did have the entire undercarriage sandblasted, so all the major rust and coatings and stuff are out. So I just need to do some light sanding with this orbital sander, then some degreasing with some ZEP and some Scotch-Brite pads, and then I'll power wash it and then let that dry, and then I'll go ahead and POR-15. I'm going to try to get from where I did in like I forget what it was, part 3 or 4, where I did all the way from the front to around where this first framing member is. And so I got most of where the brakes are and everything, but I still have some more up to do. I'm going to try to get all the rest of this done, and then all the undercarriage pan and the framing members up till that wheel well. I'm going to try to get that done. And yeah, that'll be nice. I know I was, originally I was going to put this off until I patched everything, but you know what? It's not a big deal to grind off a little bit of that POR-15 when I'm doing my patch and reapply it. I just want to get all the rust coated. It's been a year and it's just starting to flash rust more, so go ahead and do that now. 2.5 hours of prep work. So sanded, Scotch-Brite, degrease, power washed. Here's what it looks like. That's about what it should look like. Probably sound like a broken record with this POR-15, but the prep work seems like a lot, but basically what you want, POR-15 sticks good to rust. That being said, never put it on rust. I know that sounds like I contradicted myself, but what I meant by that is, it adheres well to rust, but it is paint, so you can't just paint it onto flaky rust. You need the surface to be nice and smooth. You need it to be clean, and so you can't just. It's not like a miracle coating where you can just paint it on whatever. But so yeah, my prep work is sand everything. Of course, this was sandblasted last year, so that took off most of the grease and the thick dirt and undercoatings. So really for me it's just a kind of a finish sanding just to get any flaky rust off of it, and then obviously degrease, scrub it, and then power wash it, and that'll make sure that it's clean metal, but yet still has, and it's smooth, but yet it still has it still has rust, so that the POR-15 will adhere well to it. So anyway, that's the prep work. That took about like I said, I had this completely done last year as far as having a mobile dustless sandblasting service. So that got rid of most of it, but still another 2 hours of hand and machine sanding and scrubbing every square inch of this. Well, it's the next morning. Let's see how we did. Looking good. Got it all the way back there, but the important thing is that, get the light, is that I got all around the places that we need to mount our brake parts to. So I'm calling it a day on this video, but for the next one, we've got, we're going to start working on this stuff now that we can mount it, now that everything's painted where we need it to go. So I'll be adding the brake light switches, the reservoir to here. But the important thing I want to do is hook this up to a 12-volt battery and to here, and maybe just bench test it and with a gauge, and see, what I want to see is if this can hold vacuum. Because if it can't hold vacuum, then there's no point in installing it. I need to just buy a new one. But if it does, then we'll go ahead and proceed. So that will be the next video, is trying to finish the master cylinder and hooking all the brakes back up, maybe even bleeding it and getting some hydraulics back into it. Thanks for watching.